Bonsoir à toutes et à tous. You are most welcome to the Chapel for Europe, this multicultural, ecumenical, and more interreligious space of getting together in the midst of this European quarter. You are most welcome to our round table. The title in short, Religion and Civil Society. Our moderator will explain it a little bit more detailed way. And we will look at Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and Buddhism. Actually, the title is not really correct. It should be the name Religions and Non-Denominational Spiritual Convictions and Civil Society, because speaking with our Buddhist friends, they don't really consider themselves as Buddhism as a religion. It's much more than non-denominational conviction. And this event is prepared together with inTOUCH Association and in the framework with our Hope interreligious network here at the chapel. You probably know that Brussels is the second most cosmopolitan city in the world. Surprise. The Brussels capital region is home to around 180 nationalities, more than 108 different languages, many different faiths, convictions, confessions. And this multiculturalism is, without doubt, an enrichment. I would like to welcome our distinguished speakers, Mr. Herman van Rompuy, President Emeritus of the European Council, Minister of State, and last but not least, the Honorary President of the Chapel for Europe. Thank you very much for having accepted our invitation. Mr. Carlo Luyckx, President of the Belgian Buddhist Union, author of the book L'intégrité en politique, une utopie. And also, if you follow and you read the La Libre Belgique some weeks ago, there was a quite big interview with you. And you are most welcome, and also congratulations on the recent official recognition of Buddhism after several years as non-denomination conviction in Belgium. Rabbi Mark Neger, Rabbi at Beth Hillel Synagogue, liberal Jewish community of Belgium, thank you very much for being with us tonight. And Mr. Taoufik Amzil, politologue, entrepreneur, president of Lead Belgium Entrepreneurs Association, author of the book Un musulman, c'est quelqu'un de normal. You are most welcome, and as the Muslim community celebrate today the Feast of Sacrifice, Eid Mubarak to you and to all our Muslim friends in the audience.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate also this, that you could find the time to be with us tonight. And all this exchange will be moderated by Ms. Aldegonde Brinkmeyer, theology doctor honoris causa, founder of the Center for the Study of Christianity in Jerusalem and the Cardinal Bea Center for Judaic Studies in Rome. So you are the bridge builder. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. And Aldegonde, the floor is yours for your introduction, followed by exchange with speakers, and finally questions, answers with the audience. Have an inspiring evening.
Thank you, Christian. Can you hear me? All right. Thank you, Christian, for this introduction and to introduce us. Je commence un peu en français d'abord, mais je vais continuer en anglais ce soir. Alors, bienvenue à vous tous et toutes. As you have heard, Christian have the honor to bring the moderator for this interesting interreligious dialogue, and I thank you very much for this. Le programme de cette est assez chargé, comme ça c'est typiquement pour Christian. Alors il m'a rappelé encore une fois pour être vraiment à temps. C'est pourquoi j'aimerais commencer par une brève introduction sur le sujet inspirant. Si cela ne vous dérange pas, je préfère de continuer en anglais. A very interesting theme. Does society actually needs institutions such as a synagogue, a church, a mosque, a temple? That and more questions we want to ponder tonight. I find this question personally quite intriguing. How I would approach this question as a religious shepherd, or as a spiritual leader, or as a servant of my people in politics, or as a responsible leader in business world. How can I fulfill my personal responsibility in addressing this question? But also, how would I do so as a woman? For example, on this panel tonight, I'm the only one, but I do see so many women here in the audience, so thank you. Do we need religious spaces? And do we need the institution of religion? Or does this feel like an anachronism in our 21st century? Because the state seems to attach no particular significance to the diversity of religions' offerings, as this would apparently violate the principle of neutrality. Yes, I believe that religion, and I think also the Buddhist and non-denominational spiritual group, have a very important role to play in society. Why? Because they have something very significant to offer to society and to politics. But that I don't mean religious anecdotes or fables or stories, or legends or tales, and certainly not political texts that are used to strengthen or to explore a position of power. We are experiencing today a very serious crisis in our European society. We urgently need responsible and spiritual people who have the courage and to feel called to take the time and to reply on a clear and an intelligent manner to spiritual and biblical questions, and to explain ethical concerns in a way that can be understood and give examples. For example, does church have something to offer to ecology as well as society and politics? Ecology, bioethical, ethical questions, and then artificial intelligence. So there are many other issues we are confronted as a religious leader. And not just any theoretical questions or ethical concerns, but questions that citizens and society really and concretely struggle with nowadays. And there are so many questions and issues. Religious institutions, traditions, practices, belief systems, rituals, symbols provide us with all kinds of tools to explore our need for meaning. In this context, I would like to refer, for example, to Psalm 40 and from the first book of the first king, where the young King Solomon, responsible for his people, asked God not for wealth, not for fame, power, or long life, but for a discerning heart. This is especially relevant for religions. Is there not a significant lack of wise and discerning hearts in our society, in politics, and unfortunately also in religion? Therefore, we need ideas. We need ideas and practices to clarify what a listening heart entails. We need ears to hear the voices of the others. But along with these ears, we also need a discerning heart that wants to listen to others and to respond to them. And the other should not keep silent. Whether they are believers, refugees, or even those who provide our society with a very important work. Inevitably, we ask a question such as integrity, respect, trust, fairness, transparency, honesty, and so on. And it is precisely here that we need appropriate spaces that can offer and resonate. The monotheistic religion, as well as Buddhism and Hinduism, provide these possibilities. They offer a different concept of time than economic and political resources. They offer a different spiritual way of connecting with the world and the higher realm, which can have a transformative effect on our own minds and spirit. And with this little introduction, you feel already in what direction we are intending to develop this discussion. And so therefore, I have the honor to ask now my honorable speakers, and with some question. I would like to pose to you two questions, and you are free how you will answer them, or both, or only one. And my question is, are religions and non-denominational spiritual conviction still considering an empowering factor able to inspire positive changes in the life of individuals and society? First question. The second question is, are religions considered as an empowering factor and able to inspire, to transform, and to unite individuals? So I would like to ask to you first, please, if you have the possibility to answer this.
I can try to answer, yes. I think politics, to be able to practice politics and keep one's integrity, one needs a kind of discipline, which can be a religion, can be another philosophy. When one starts in politics, one always starts with lots of enthusiasm and good intention, altruism. One wants to change the world, make a better world for the people around us. The problem is, and that's what as was mentioned, I wrote a book about that, because I have been a Buddhist for over half a century, and for 25 years, since 25 years ago, I have been active in politics also. Je n'ai pas joué dans le cours d'écran comme Herman and Rompuy, I was just a deputy mayor of one of the cities here in Brussels. So I have had the experience, and I see it in myself, because if one wants to succeed to keep this integrity, one needs to have the capacity of introspection, to see what is happening inside, in the back of the mind as well. And when you ask a politician, even after 20, 30 years, why is he in politics? He will say, it's to make the world better. Mm-hmm. But if you are really sincere with oneself, there's lots of other motivations. The problem is that this enthusiasm, this idealism from the beginning is starting to erode once one starts climbing the ladder of power, because there is this, which we call in Buddhism the mind poisons, which is disturbing emotions, which are in 5 families. It's like anger and hate, jealousy, arrogance and pride, cupidity, greed, and confusion. And once one gets elected, and gets in power, the world around one changes completely, and people start almost prostrating before you and then praising you and how happy we are that you are the right person in the right place and so on and so on. And people, for the politician, the danger, if one does not practice any introspection, is that there's a confusion between the function and the personality. Or people respect the function when they prostrate before the minister or the mayor or whatever. But the minister or the mayor will think it's myself, so it's ego. And the ego is based on these 5 mind poisons, which I just thought. So if you don't have introspection, you will get very more arrogant. You will get very easily angry if people don't listen to you, and so on. All these, I'm not going to details. So there is solutions for that. I think politics need wisdom. Politics need people who are really altruistic and who can keep this integrity. And there are methods in all the religions and different philosophies. There are methods to do this, and that's why I don't want to monopolize the discussion, because there are many more things to say about this. But it's if you see those politicians, which everybody knows, and people start talking about even years and years afterwards. It's like Mandela, it's like Gandhi, it's like Martin Luther King. Those people, I would include Dalai Lama also. Those people who are gone into history, they are religious people or wisdom people. So that's my answer.
Yes, thank you. May I ask Taufik if you could answer and what you would like to...
Yeah, sure. Do you hear me? As a Muslim, our perspective is that we have 3 dimensions. The very first one is the deeper connection you have with God as the creator. So you know you have been created, you know there is a creator, so you already know your relativity. The second level of connection is with yourself, is the introspection, is to understand who you are, what is your limits, what is your capability, what is you, to understand who you are and where you are. And the third connection is you and the rest of the world, the rest of humanity, society, your connection to society. And based on these 3 levels of connections with transcendental connection, yourself, and transversal with the rest of the humanity, the people like you have to do something. It has to be a meaning. And this meaning is together try to work with all the rest of the humanity to build resiliency over population and societies. This is one of the most important driver in religion, and especially here I'm talking with the angle of Islam, is you get to know people regardless of their religion, because the Quran asks you, says, we have created you as diverse tribes, so you get to know each other. And you are deeply, strongly invited to know people around you, so you can build something together. So this social dimension of religion is to bring you to meet other and to build something. Why? Because you, as a human being on your own, you are almost nothing. You are always in situation of need. You need to stay alive, you need food, you need beverage, but also you need love, you need empathy, you need to be understood, and you need to be part of something that is bigger than you. So this social construction is a very important cornerstone in Islam, and I would say in every religion or every belief, and then I don't want to speak about on behalf of my colleagues, but this is something that is transversal that you will find. And based on that, you will have to build something at the political level, the economical level, the social level. You will have to have a strategy for education. You have to have a strategy for social purpose. But in this case, we see religion, and in our case, Islam, as the fuel to help you to get and connect to others to build something that is higher than you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And here we hear already very clearly the relationship between the politics and the religion. Therefore, I would like to ask Herman if you could perhaps interfere in this.
You are the only woman in the room. I'm the only politician at the national or supranational level in the room. Just one remark on what Carlo said. I have a totally different experience, having been a politician all my life. I started with a lot of ego, a lot of ambition, and I ended as not somebody who has no ego anymore, and that's exaggerated. But I'm not laughing this time. But I felt that at the end of my career, and that was a highlight also of my career, it was a pure coincidence, I could devote myself to the common good. Mm-hmm. I felt no need anymore to show how intelligent I were and what I all could do. And in some way, people felt it. People felt it. So this is not written in stone that once you get older, you are involved in all the political intrigues and all the games, and at the end you don't know even more what's the purpose of all this. No, there are people, and I'm not the only one, who kept that kind of sense of the common good during the biggest part of their career. You know, a human being is always complicated. In us, there is ego-centeredness and other-centeredness at the same time. All depends on what is dominating your motivation. And in some periods, it's more related to, I have to show somebody to the rest of the world how good we are. And there are other parts of your activity and in your lifetime, as I said, that ambition is not playing anymore the biggest role at all, and that you can show that, yes, what we are doing is meaningful, and meaningful always means meaningful for others. The only definition of something that is meaningful. Mm-hmm. It's never related to yourself. That's just one remark. Second is that I am very much in favor of a very clear distinction between what we call the church and the state. The Catholic Church, I know that church better than others, the Catholic Church, its drama was for sure for the French Revolution. They were so mingled with power. At the end, you don't know what it was. Was the king also the leader of the church, or vice versa, and the popes had until 100 years ago that they were head of state. Now they are head of state of a very small state. You will join that state, Christian. It's the smallest state in the world, but represented at the United Nations. Okay, so this is over. This is over. So I'm really for a clear distinction between church and state, because we had a lot of dramas in the past. It means that the state cannot interfere in religious institutions, and at the other hand, that religious institutions are not playing a prominent role, let it be even an institutional role in the state. We are not in Russia, where the patriarch is blessing soldiers and weapons. That there is no distinction between the state and the church. So for me, it's really important. But there shouldn't be a distinction between society and faith. On the contrary, the believers, convictional or religious believers, have the duty to play their role in society. As much as there is a separation between state and church, for faith and society, there shouldn't be a distinction. We have, as believers, whatever in religious or conviction, we have a role to play in our societies. And I come again to my first point. The Belgian constitution, in its wisdom, yes, there was wisdom even in the Belgian constitution. In its wisdom, they acknowledge this separation, but at the same time, they acknowledge the role of religious and institutions in society. That's why they paid priests, imams now, even the Buddhists, or the lay workers in humanistic associations. So they recognize the role that they played there. In the beginning it was only the Catholics, but we are an open society, and now it's very open to others, and again you are the latest and a very good example of all this. And why is it meaningful also today? Because one of the biggest problems of our time in Western societies is the individualization of our societies. There's the loss, I'm not a pessimist, but there is a loss of social and family capital. And religion can play a role in bringing people together. Not only in their own group, in their own tribe, but across the society. And so this overcoming individualization, their religion can play a role. Of course, it is not a religion anymore as it was before the French Revolution or whatever. They reinvented themselves. Some reinvented themselves better than others. I fully agree with that. But religion can play this role in restoring linkages, bonds, connections with people in a society that is very fragmented, very individualized. And so it's something that we have in common. That is something that we have in common. We have a common cause, so to speak. Of course, when you go further into issues, then we can have differences, of course. And not only as a religion. I'm a Christian, but I'm not asking the church for what I have to do. And in the Bible, there's a lot of things in the Bible, but for instance, on the splitting of the constituency Bruxelles-Halle-Vilvoorde, there is nothing in the Bible. I read it 3 times and I found nothing as a solution. So there is some kind of autonomy of the political world too. Of course, there is always an inspiration. Even that issue that I just mentioned, you can approach it from a pure technical or tactical point of view, yeah, but you can also see what can I do, given the fact that my let's say my approach is to respect identity of people, but always also to show some openness. But what I meant to say is there is an autonomy of the political decision-making, as there is an autonomy of the economy, but there is always that kind of background inspiration with which you approach things and propose solutions. Mm-hmm. And then that's my last point, Aldegonde, and I promise that I will be more silent afterwards.
I hope
but
not.
what we are missing, as I said, is one of the problems of our time is this individualization. But the second, and I'm really worried about this, is this lack of dialogue, this lack of moderation, this lack of conversation. And that's a drama of social media, some of the social media. It's a one-way street. I give you my opinion, but the same guy is not listening to the opinion of others.
This doesn't count.
So this one-way street is the opposite of democracy, is the opposite of humanity. It always ends in violence. It always ends in violence. Violence always starts with words and with pen and with ink. So what we need in our societies is this renewed sense of dialogue and conversation. And that's going further than only interreligious or interconvictional dialogue and conversation. Of course, we need that too. But in general, between human beings, from whatever their background is, we have to listen to each other, to react to each other, to exchange, and to find a compromise. There's nothing wrong with the word compromise. On the contrary, without a compromise, then you have this situation as we have in some Western countries, and even in our country. So if you ask me what religion can promote, then there is also this sense of compromise. Each human being is written in the palm of God's hand. So we are all important. And in a dialogue, you are all important. Otherwise, there is no dialogue. If I consider myself as superior to you, there is no dialogue anymore possible.
Exactly, yes. Thank you,
Okay.
Herman. Now I would like to ask you, please.
Thank you. I fully agree with what you said about individualization or the fragmentation of individual beliefs. And I think that's really one thing that goes aside as another axis than the secularization of society, is actually that we as human beings are, even the most secular, looking for some meaning of our life. And I think that the individualization, somehow marketization of spirituality, and will lead people, or usually lead people, either to join or feel well in their religion, or in a religion, or in a traditional belief, or to build up their own thing. And that's where religion in the political sense doesn't mean anything, because everyone has got his own thing custom-made for him or her, and there cannot be any dialogue if you have your own specific, divinely made for you opinion that you cannot share with others. So I think that religion is very important as any common group, whether be it a union, a political party, or whatever lobby. I think it's religion in the traditional constituency makes sense in that respect. However, I think there are also differences in the way we understand religion, because it seems like nowadays we are facing different types of religion, like more ultra-conservative understanding of religion. Doesn't mean that all believers are connected to that reading, but it's most often the reading that is exposed to the people, that there should be ultra-conservative, whatever their belief is, and the other are secular, but there are in-between ways. And I think that religions are closer when it gets to opposing or debating about conservative or ultra-conservative religions that want to stay what they were a few centuries ago or a few thousand years ago, opposed to religion that can want to be living in our world, and I would call more progressive religion, but you can find progressive feeling or progressive impulse in all the traditional religion or conviction. And I think that's more where the key is, and where the religion can speak together. Because most often, when you get to a more conservative reading, you're cutting the ability to speak with the other, and therefore to have a dialogue. Whereas in the end, when you get to the more progressive one, and at the same time avoid the temptation of being syncretic, so meaning having to mix up bits and bobs of different religion, which is also the marketization or individualization. I think that's where you get, when you get common goals or common outlook on the society, and when you can bring people to think in a more synergistic way about how to look at the climate crisis as a religious duty to some extent, or even as the role of genders. Okay, some religions are very lagging behind, and you made the point that you were the only woman around. Okay, maybe yesterday a colleague of mine, a woman, would have been here, because she was in our synagogue for our conference. But I know that it's a common thing that, that's why I spoke about being ultra-conservative in the understanding or in the outlook. We need to rethink things so to make the religion meaningful for life and meaningful for the society we live in, not looking at the society we were living in 100, 200 years ago and want to have golden age that is past. We need to build something together for the future, but we need to then find ways to discuss these topics together, and not from dogmatic point of view, because if we are to respect each other's belief and system of beliefs, then all the dogmatic part is not, we're not going to be able to convince the other. That's not the point. The point is that we need to convince each other, or to bring together our strength to be able to work on the same topic or toward the same goal, while retaining maybe different reason or different outlook of why we would do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you so much. I think it is a very rich inputs which we have heard here, and I would like to tackle what you said, Herman, the distinction between church and state, or state and church. But we are member of, and the state as also member of the religion, of a religion. And here it should be, or is it not that we should more collaborate with each other and listen to each other? If I take an example, sorry, I'm also a Catholic, and when I read Laudatio Si, which the church, the Catholic Church has brought forward, it animated the politician thinking, how to worship and how to have respect towards our world and our nature. Whereas, and this is neutral of any party, but this is an input with a religion, a true religion background. So I think the discernment between church and society is important, but each one has and can add something very important to our society. And so the individualization, what you said, and the dialogue, lack of dialogue, that is indeed something which I would very much like to ask, first of all, here our speakers. you know, what is the added value the religion can bring into the politics? What is the added value without interfering in political issues? But it is, of course, a political issue. So what is the added value religion very concretely can offer to the politics scenes? That is my question to you. If you are free, who wants to answer this? Yes, yeah. Please.
Yes, thank you.
Carlo, yes.
First of all, I would like to thank Herman for what he said, because it makes me very happy to know that by climbing up the ladders of the power, he got less ambition and more altruistic. It's a proof of what I wanted to show in my book, because the last chapter of my book is the exercise of power an obstacle to spiritual development, or can it become an engine towards this spiritual development? And this is the proof that it is possible, because if one has this integrity, and keeps his integrity, and by introspection and the fact that he is practicing a religion, a system of introspection as well, is the proof that it is possible to keep this integrity and to develop it, to become more altruistic. So then for the added value, there's lots of added value. So there has to be this separation between institutions,
Yes.
Because power games are everywhere in society, in business, in politics, also in spiritual organizations and so on. So one has to be aware of that. If one develops, and each of the spiritual systems, what would I call it, has the methods of developing this altruism. We have in Buddhism, in the Mahayana Buddhism, the great vehicle, the 6 perfections, the 6 paramitas, which are generosity, to develop generosity, ethics. Of course, every spiritual system has ethics, good and bad, and the main thing about ethics is the motivation behind it. An act can look negative if the motivation is altruistic. Of course, it's very different. Ethics, then patience. Patience is often seen in politics as a weakness, not fighting too much. Actually, patience is like a mountain. It's very powerful. It's very strong. Diligence, perseverance, enthusiasm, energy. Then that's something special to Buddhism. Also, other systems is concentration, meditation, to calm the mind first. To calm the mind, like a glass of water with mud in it. If you leave it for some time, the mud will go down and you will see clear. And then there's a second level where you start working you go deeper and you start cleaning up the mud inside. And wisdom. Wisdom is, in Buddhist point of view, is the realization and the knowledge and the comprehension of the real nature of our mind, which has no limits, which is clarity, lucidity. So that's those tools. If one is generous, has good ethics, patient, diligent, can concentrate himself, and has wisdom, is a perfect citizen. It doesn't have to be Buddhist or whatever. He's a perfect citizen. And if he's a politician, if he has these qualities, it's perfect tools as we said, yes. Politics is to make the world better. So yes. That's what I mean.
Carlo, thank you. Mark, would you?
I was thinking that one big difference between a religious and a political outlook is the way we relate to time. Politicians, especially in democracies, have a very fast understanding of time, because there's always a next election, and it puts a pressure that is actually counterproductive to the real long-term projects. And on the other hand, the religion, not the believers, but the religions, they have all the time they need. They have, they look at the end of time for many of them, but it will come as late as possible. But we come from a thinking that comes in centuries or thousands or millennia, and we also bring a continuous way of thinking that goes through centuries and millennia. So I think that's what we have to bring as religious people or as religious institution, is that we can bring wisdom or reflection or ideas that comes not back to how it was, but how already a few centuries ago or even a few thousand years ago, we already looked at some of the big questions that the human is facing. And despite technology, the world didn't change so much. Our way of living did change a lot, but the human being didn't change much. And so many of the questions that we are actually facing today, they already have hints or ideas that we can use from our old text, whether they come from the Orient or whether they come from the Bible or the Quran. They all will help us build up new solutions and new reflection that will fit our world today if we are able to not look back at the society that was, but just at the text and what they bring us in terms of wisdom.
Yes, thank you so much. Tafil, would you...
For me, without interfering here, because of course, church as an institution has to be isolated from society and the political side of society, so that's clear. But for me, it comes more to a question of inspiration, because all those political men and women are at the end also humans. They are humans, so they have feelings, they have emotions, and they are under pressure. They have to find solutions to tackle different challenges every day, every moment. And I think that they can use religion as an institution here as a toolbox to get alignment on values, to get certain level of morality, a certain level of ethics, to use it as a compass to guide themselves when they have to take tough decisions and to handle our social fabric. So I see the religion as something made at disposal of the political world to not work on the how, because we excel in how. Our societies are so technocratic, so technologic that we can really excel in explaining every little thing. But sometimes I think we miss the why and the purpose. And the religion can surely help giving a meaning, a purpose behind the things. So I clearly see this power of impulsion and this power of morality that you can have in religion at the service of the politicians.
That's very interesting, Taufik. When I compare you with Mark is also saying more or less the same thing, but he says, you know, we have to renew also, because we are living today in a world which is quite diverse, and religion can, of course, give something very important, but it should not be a standstill, but it has to develop and to transform, a transformative way.
Certainly, and you come to a very important point, is I'm always advocating for agility in religion.
To what?
For agility.
Yeah.
A religion that stays very static, with a very strict reading interpretation of the text is prone to die, actually. It has no connection anymore with the reality where it has to be applied. So in my point of view, this aggiornamento that we certainly ask for our societies to operate has also to be in the field of religions. So this is important that we tackle the future challenges with a brand new eye on it. And the text in the Quran, for example, you can read them in several ways. You can have a very conservative way, and then you can even paralyze the society because it's just like that, and we stop, we do nothing. Or you can have a more reshuffled reading of it to make it more coherent, more synchronized with our reality. Because of course, we have in our community people that say, for this problem, you have to look at how the Prophet used to do 14 centuries in the past. Okay, that's good, but I'm not sure this is really helping me. But I will do like if the Prophet was living with me in 2023, what he would do if he was here today, how he will read and interpret the text to make it express a solution for today and for the future. So definitely it's not a look back in the past approach, but it's more to insufflate this courage to have a reading that is fitting with our reality of today and certainly of tomorrow.
Yes, thank you. Mark, would you like to, because you know you are feasting today, a very important feast of Abraham and Isaac, and we know this of course of our First Testament and our Second Testament. It is not a feast for us, but it is very present in our religious mind. And so how will you interpret this into our world today? That is, of course, always the question of the religion, because we are all looking back for thousands of years, and to renew it and to transform it and to bring wisdom into our society. This is it not our duty as being a religious person?
As a Jew, I believe it's our duty to study text and to renew the text. I don't know for the others, I can tell. But definitely, it's about giving new meaning to the text. In a way, the tradition says that God revealed the Torah on Mount Sinai as he gave the Ten Commandments, but a more modern theology would say that every time that we read the text and give new meaning to the text, it still speaks to us. And actually, even in the most traditional Jewish setting, the blessing before studying Torah says that God did not teach Torah, but is teaching Torah all the time. So that's exactly what it says. He speaks, or she. The higher powers speaks to us through our own mind, and we have to give new meanings because we're facing new questions.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much. Herman, would you like to...
It's a very difficult question. You're asking the added value. Eh?
Yes.
Because you gave the example of Laudatio Si. It's a great text. But many others have spoken about climate change. Mm-hmm. Of course, the added value of Laudatio Si, but that's only for the believers, is that they make clear that there is also a Christian approach to the problem. Of course, we can and we have to work with others combating the negative impact of climate change. But in itself, it is the text related strictly to climate change is not an original text. And what as I said, this many people, happily so, they are involved in this the biggest battle for our survival that we are facing in the next decades. But it is a tricky question. Why? Because when we speak about religion, what do we mean? Do we refer to the institutions? But even the institutions are not a monolithic
yes.
Body, so to speak. Even in the Catholic Church, which is very centralized, not so democratic,
no.
but very centralized, you have many voices, and let's say more and more this diversity is coming to the service. So speaking about a religion, when you are referring to the official churches or organizations representing religion, yeah, that's you have to speak on the plural, even when you're speaking about one of the religions. And then you have the diversity among the believers. I represented the Christian Democratic Party, but we always said we have not a monopoly of translation of Christianity in politics. You can be a good liberal, you can be a good socialist, starting from the same kind of inspiration, but giving another political translation to that inspiration. So it's a tricky question. What is, if I still belong to the Christian Democratic Party, can we say that we brought an other added value than other Christians that are active in other parties? I don't feel the need, and I would consider it as very pretentious when I should say this. But what is real added value, I think, is, I spoke about individualization and the lack of dialogue, but when you go deeper, there is in our societies a big spiritual deficit. And I mean spiritual as the opposite to material and to materialism. And spirituality also in the sense of, as I said in the beginning, more related to a human being, and we as a person, we are not alone in the world. We share our fate with other human beings, as valid. There's no feeling of superiority from one to another. We are part of the nature. We are part of the cosmos. We are, for the believers, children of God. So with this sense of humility, of dependency, of the sense of belonging to something that is transcend the human being and the ego, yeah, we miss that in our societies. Mm-hmm. And that is at the root, not only one, but at the root of individualization and the lack of dialogue. When you are deeply convinced that you are part of a bigger, I don't find the right word. Not only a bigger world, but that you are part also of transcendency. It has not to be theologically based. It has not to be, let's say, intellectually very sophisticated. It's just this feeling that can be very popular also. Mm-hmm. And this lack of spirituality is one of the problems of our society today. And all kinds of religions giving a different content to that spirituality can contribute to filling that gap. And it has not to be the same answer. And that's the mistake we shouldn't make. We shouldn't make that if we define as a spiritual deficit, that we have all to give the same content or the same solution to that. No, it can be in a very different way, but always in respect to others. You can have a different opinion, but you are not my enemy. You are not my enemy. You have a different point of view, and I respect that. And I listen to you. Of course, you have to listen to me too. It shouldn't be a one-way street. But that thing is absolutely a necessity. We have to overcome this major problem of handicap in our societies together, even if we give different responses to the same problem.
Right. Thank you. Yes, I think spirituality has definitely, in all the different denominations, religions, an important role to play if one say the spirituality they can provide. Could we not say that it is the diversity in the unity? So that we have the unity to inspire, to transform, to give more sense in our society and in our political way, so that we have more the meaning of what we are doing. If, for example, the economy is pushing us and hasting us more and more, so that we hardly know why are we developing in such a way where we have so many burnouts, and a burnout is in fact just the contrary of a spiritual life. And yes, I know that the time we have not started in time, so I gave a little 15 minutes more, but I would now very much like, as we have heard these interesting inputs, I would like now to turn also to our audience, who definitely also have some important questions. Before I ask the question, I would like to be, in your questions, brief. It is a different way as the speakers. I gave them a little bit more time to express them. But now, turning to you, my question is then, how strong is, do you think, how strong is our awareness that religion practice create a communio, what we have heard here also with our speakers, the communio, which is often lacking. That is the communion between the persons, but it is also communion between the persons and things, and with a communion, of course, with the higher other, which is God. So I would like now to turn this to the audience, if there are some questions or some comments.
Please
yes,
raise
there
your
are
hand.
two. Yes.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the panel. I think from what you've shared, it demonstrates that there is this awareness of this connection and communion. Many of the issues you have spoken about, individualism, the polarization, the need for dialogue, the endless rushing from one thing to another, the need for a rhythm, speaking about climate change or artificial intelligence, where essentially the questions are around what does it mean to be human, how do I navigate the power I have, how do I navigate my relationship with the rest of humanity. All of these seem to speak into an awareness that faith traditions, religions do have something to offer in this space. And so I would like to throw a question back to the panel, which is that I wonder if you think we need to be a little bit more courageous in this offer and a little bit more outward focused towards people who are not necessarily currently affiliated with a particular faith tradition, to say, in fact, we invite you here, we have something to share, not in the sense of a controlling or an imposing, but rather from the awareness, the perspective of humility, the shared understanding that there is a God, it's not me, that brings a certain humility, the understanding that we're deeply loved, that brings a certain freedom and a liberation. From this posture, if there is something that we can offer, and if we need to be a little bit more bold, perhaps we have been a little bit too timid and hidden our treasure or hidden behind the parapet, is it time that we stood up a little?
Thank you so much. Perhaps we are collecting. Is your question a bit in that direction? No.
Okay. So I can just add it, because my way of reflecting was much more in your direction, Sarah Jane. We agree religions are a lot to offer. The question now is, are they attractive? So, for example, for young European professionals, they are not living this long perspective Mark was talking about that the religions have. They are just living the immediate, and it's not bad, actually. But The question for all panelists, you think that your religion is attractive for young European professionals?
Thank you. So we have 2 questions and now many other hands, but I would like to keep with that question of you both, and please, is here someone who would like to answer to this?
I can probably start.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. I would like to make the connection between your question and the last point of Herman about filling the gap. I'm definitely happy when I see people from different religions, from different faiths, can be religion or non-religious faiths, that are acting as ambassadors and bridges, that they take this courageous approach to go outside their community and to seek for allyship, to seek for people of good willingness, and to tackle our society issues. I see lots and more of this. There are some here in this room, they will recognize themselves, but I see more and more young professionals from Muslims roots going together with Christian professionals and Jewish professionals to talk, because you talk, you develop empathy, you develop a better get to know each other, and then you come to understand that beside all the difference that can exist, and it's okay to be different, you don't want people to be just like standardized people, you acknowledge difference, but you want to look beyond the difference and you want to build something. And for example, I'm part of a series of activities where you have entrepreneurs coming from different routes, and it's okay, we are happy with that, but we say, what are we going to do together? So we help youngsters to start their startup, for example. And then we organize hackathon, telethon, a lot of things, and we help them, and regardless of the fate of the mentor, we don't care. But we see as our belief as something that fuels us to play this societal role and to find bridges in other communities. Mm-hmm. And this is a way for us to operate the practical move of religion. And then it becomes attractive, because then, in my point of view, religion is not a catalog of forbidden things. You should not do this. It's like you have the 144 things not to do and you will go to paradise. I'm just like doing like stereotype. But you should see like more a catalog of good and best practice to do something for the good, for the common. I can even go in the gospel, I can go to, probably with the help of you in the Jewish text, and I will find a lot of things about ESG, environmental, social, and governance things. I can find, if I go and deep inside the text, I will find many things to inspire me to find solutions for our societal problems, and then find allies in other communities. So definitely, to make it more attractive, we should not see ourselves as people protective of a silo communitarian situation, but more it has to be an open-ended architecture.
Thank you, Taufik. I think here the two words are courage and attractive. Who would like to ask? Oh yes, here are so many.
So, I don't have an answer to your question, by the way, but I would like to bring up President Biden, America's second Catholic president. You don't have to comment on him politically, whether you like him or not, whether you agree with his policies or not, but he frequently brings up his Irish Catholic background, and he often talks about his Catholic faith. Is he an example of how one should navigate the different realms of religion and politics? Yes or no, and why or why not? Thank you.
Who would like to ask this? Or shall we collect another, because there have been so many hands?
Do you not think that the increase of our Occidental use for NGO, where they can care for the others with spirituality, but a spirituality who is absolutely not linked with a church or with a structure, is not a proof that there is still something good in our countries?
All right, we have these two very diverse questions. Herman, would you like to answer?
On the question of President Biden, I'm 5 years younger than President Biden. But in the American tradition, it is much more common to speak about God, religion, even if you are a president. So you cannot compare that with the European, much more secular tradition. But I'm very much in favor of those who have a religious conviction, that they say it also in public. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. You're coming out for your sexual orientation, perfectly fine. But it is almost forbidden to say that you are a Christian or that you are a moderate Muslim or that you are a Jew or whatever. So the coming out shouldn't be restricted to very, very specific issues. I thought that Christian was saying, how can we make the religion more attractive? I thought that his next state was, how can we make religion more sexy? But that's just an interpretation. Just an interpretation. But just one. No, I think I will repeat what I just said. But I think this is important. No, that's what I meant to say was the following. So we need incarnation of convictions. People who say clearly and loudly, not belonging to the priesthood or whatever, because that is their role, their duty even, but as laymen or laywomen, we are Christians, and that can be some kind of role model. But the second thing that we really need, and that's related to churches, to religious organizations, that is authenticity. Is your word in accordance with your deeds? And people are becoming so cynical because they listen to politicians and to messages coming, more commercial messages, and they were confronted with so many lies. So they are longing for authenticity. And if there is one of the added values of churches and religious organizations is to demonstrate that you can have high ideals and ideas, but that you can translate it in your life. And so that you get what you have seen. And authenticity is absolutely key, absolutely key. And that's, and of course, not only in religion, but if there is a coming out, if there is that you show that, of you say that is your inspiration, the next question will be, are you living according to your principles?
Yeah.
If not, better to keep silent.
Thank you. I have to say, I have proved it very much when I started in Jerusalem at the Hebrew University with the study of Judaism and Christianity. There I really have proved, and I was also examined by, how authentic is this call to start something in the dialogue and in the study with different religions. Are you authentic to do it, or is it à la mode to have an interreligious dialogue? Everyone is speaking about dialogue, but how authentic you really mean it with your heart and also in your deeds. So I think this is a very important comment. There have been two others, yes, and also on that side I have seen
yes.
also, yeah.
Hello, good evening. My name is Erik van Leeuw. Nice to meet you, and nice to meet you again, Mrs. Brenninkmeijer. I work as a general economist for the Congregation of the Sisters of the Annunciation, and I'm also the president of a not-for-profit organization, SPES Forum, which stands for Spirituality in Economy and Society, and is also the Latin word for hope.
Yes.
So I think it speaks for itself that my answer to the question, has religion and spirituality to play a role in society, is of course yes. That's just a remark. But my question is, we will be organizing a study day the 2nd of December on the life and work of Thich Nhat Hanh, which was a Zen Buddhist, Vietnamese Zen Buddhist. And in 1996, he wrote this book called Living Buddha, Living Christ. And I remember him writing somewhere that on his altar, he had a Buddha and he had a Christ. I was triggered by what the rabbi said about the balance between conservatism and progressive points of view, and then syncretism. My question is it correct to say that syncretism is a way not to go? Would you say that Thich Nhat Hanh, if he says that Buddha and Christ is for him a living person and is meaning something for him, would you say that Thich Nhat Hanh is syncretist? That's my question.
I don't know. I don't sit in his shoes and in his mind. I would fear it a bit, but I would not condemn anyone for doing such things on a personal level. I think it's more when it gets to the confusion thing, when you're not able to make the difference between two things. And that's a very Jewish obsession, that you make things clear.
Concern, yes, exactly.
And I'll get to the fact, for example, that I believe that my synagogue managed to be sexy in a way and attracts young professionals. But from the Jewish experience, I think that younger people, they tend to be attracted by two kinds of religion, the very traditionalistic one and the very progressive one. And I think that it's, rather than condemn the very traditionalistic one, I think it's the outcome of the fear or the perplexity of what the world brings. So they're in a way asking both the same question, but in one case they have the tools to face the question, and the other they want the answer rather than the question. So, which is kind of a fast food approach to the problem that we're facing. But in any case, they're seeking something, and the seeking something will bring them to build something together also. So even in the most traditional religion, in the most, I would say, conservative way, the building of community is at the center. So I think that's what people are also seeking, that they overcome the individuality or the individualistic perspective. I lost part of the question.
The syncretism.
Yeah, the syncretic thing is the opposite of that, both from the progressive and the conservative perspective, from my point of view, because it's a kind of personal recipe to my spirituality, to my building up an answer to the question or to the perplexity, but I cannot share it with anyone unless no one speaks about the same thing. So it's just getting more confused if you're unable to make the things very clear. In the Jewish prayer, we say that we pray the God of Abraham and the God of Yitzchak and the God of Yaakov, and in our community we even add the God of Sarah and the God of Rebecca and the God of Rachel and Leah. Okay.
Oh, very good.
Okay, but actually that's a detail for my point, is that all these old figures, actually, did not worship or understand the same God. Because we could say the God of Abraham and Yitzhak and Yaakov and Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. No, it's one God different for each. It doesn't mean that there are several gods. It means that as human beings, we cannot see or understand the same relationship to God. So there is a temptation, which is due to our limitation, to have a personal God. That is, or not that we have a personal relationship with the transcendent, but that in a way we want to make God ours in a very individualistic or consumerist approach. And I think that's what syncretism may lead to, that you pick bits and bobs to build something that suits you, but who are you going to share that with? How are you going to transmit that to your children or to your friends? How are you going to share a communal experience if everyone has something so different that what you say doesn't fit what they believe or what ritual they designed? So I think that's the danger of syncretism. But it doesn't mean that for some people it doesn't work, but it works for them. And it may be also an example of how to teach how religion are actually seeking the same thing. That I agree.
Yes, please. There is one. And I think one other question, and then I think, Christian, that we have to...
Je peux m'exprimer en français?
Oui.
Alors, bien évidemment, notre société est riche de ses composants ethniques, culturels, spirituels, philosophiques, etc. Et c'est Antoine Saint-Exupéry qui disait « Étranger, ta différence m'enrichit ». Comment faire pour ne pas penser et dire « Étranger, ta différence me gêne ou me dérange ». À mon avis, ça commence par les rencontres comme ce soir. Quand on ne se connaît pas, on se méfie. La rencontre provoque d'abord les monologues, comme ce soir, c'était plutôt un monologue à plusieurs voix que de dialogue, mais c'est déjà un bon début. J'espère que vous êtes à la hauteur de vos espérances ce soir. Et je voudrais simplement dire, on n'a pas beaucoup parlé, le rôle de la famille, et la famille qui est la base et le composant de notre société humaine, et le garant de son avenir, puisque nous espérons de construire une société avec une cohésion sociale, politique, économique, culturelle, etc. Comment faire la question pour dire « étranger, ta différence ne me dérange pas ». Et pour cela, il faut une éducation, il faut une culture, il faut éduquer à partir de l'école, éduquer et préparer les familles. Nous savons la fragilité de la famille dans notre société. Famille et la religion et le rôle de la famille dans la propagation des valeurs telles que nous avons dans nos différentes religions. Déjà dans nos religions même, on a beaucoup de différences. Dans la même famille, il faut qu'on s'entende dans notre famille pour s'ouvrir vers les autres et s'enrichir.
Merci. Non, c'est bien que vous dites la famille. Le titre a été naturellement un peu différent, mais vous avez tout à fait raison. Et qui peut répondre sur cette question ou est-ce que quelqu'un voit...
Il peut avoir plusieurs questions peut-être.
Oui.
Parce que...
Oui.
Il peut y avoir plusieurs questions peut-être parce que...
Oui, c'est ça.
Oui.
Alors, encore une question, mais alors, je crois Christian dit alors... oui.
Moi, je vais bien répondre sur la question.
Oui, c'est ça. Est-ce qu'il y a encore une autre question? Alors, avant, il y avait... et je crois que nous avons un dialogue, je crois, entre l'audience et nous. Je ne vois pas exactement que nous avons un monologue. En tout cas, oui.
Coming back to attractiveness.
Yes.
I am Catholic, and I'm wondering. I it's my perception that Buddhism is having a lot of success in actual society. So my question is to all the people of the panel, if that's also your perception, and why is that then a reality? Is that because they do more merchandising, or do they answer better to the actual problems we are facing?
Right, yes, please.
Okay. Yes, that comes back to the attractivity, which I think is also an important question. In Buddhism, there is absolutely forbidden to try to convert people. Proselytism is completely forbidden. We only give the Dharma, the teaching of Buddha, when there is a demand, and not trying to convert people. So that's maybe one of the attractive things, because although we don't want to get people, maybe people come because they don't feel trapped. Our temples, I always say our temples are open in both ways, to come in and to go out. So we have every day in our temple, which I'm started 45 years ago, we have every evening silent meditations. We have atheists, Christians, Jewish, Muslims who come to meditate, and Buddhists, of course, as well. But nobody asks, what is your religion? Why do you come here? And so it's free. It's just calm your mind and try to say, to master your mind. It's Buddhism doesn't claim to have the monopoly of wisdom. If Thich Nhat Hanh has Buddha and Christ on his, I had the luck to meet. He came to our center once. Thich Nhat Hanh, he died recently. He's really an incarnation of wisdom and openness. It means openness also. Because even the Dalai Lama, every time he gives lectures in the West, he says, don't become Buddhist. You have everything you need. Just use your methods, use your tools, the tools you have. But if you want to use the tools, that's what I'm adding, if you want to use the tools, the methods of Buddhism, you can use them freely as a Muslim, as a Christian, and that's not syncretism. It's just, no. It's I have an example of Bernard de Givre. He was a Trappist monk. He died a few years ago at the age of 107 old. And he came, and he was really clear at the end. He's a good friend. He went in the 70s and 80s. He went in India to the Tibetan monasteries. He was initiated in Buddhism, practiced Buddhism. As a Christian, he used the Buddhist methods for his Catholic practice. So it's that's.
So you are offering really something what people need.
Yeah, but also attractiveness is also we have no God. So there is no God. You can believe in God or not believe in God. We don't call Buddhists. We don't call ourselves believers, because Buddha himself said, there is a text in the Kamala Sutra where he says, "Don't believe what I say. Don't believe because it has been said by older people, by sages. Don't believe but just try to understand. So listen, contemplate, meditate, and understand." So that's the thing. Then about the family, because there was this question also, and it was also about the NGOs. A lady who said
yes,
the
exactly.
NGO, of course, work as NGOs in the third world or even here. It's completely it's a manifestation of altruism. So the main thing in Buddhism is to transform your egocentrism in altruism.
Right.
So about the family, family that's a very Western conception also. We have the tendency here in the West of being ethnocentric. The family in the East and in Africa and everywhere, it's a very larger conception. The families they go. If I hear the Tibetans speaking about their brothers and sisters, they say, which is it not a cousin or even they say father same, no mother not same, and those kind of things. But they care about the children. Everybody cares about the children, and everybody cares about the old people. Here they put the old people in kind of des mouroirs. So the family is something which much broader.
Yes.
Broader, and it's also even friends become brothers and sisters and that's on. So that's
Thank
just.
you. Herman wanted an answer, and is there some, because then we have to stop. Would you like? But Herman,
just very brief.
Quickly,
We have here a dialogue, because it is a dialogue, or it was a dialogue, among not representatives of different religions, but simply believers, speaking on their own behalf and nothing else. But there is the big part of our population is in some way indifferent to any faith, and they are not represented here. So you can be happy that there is a dialogue between people belonging to different religions, but it's for sure among the young people, but even people belonging to my generation, they are formal believers, they are still looking for something, or they are just believe in nothing, in their own, preoccupied with their own life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they don't need, that's a better word, they don't need a religious or a convictional reference. And that's, according to all surveys, that's the big majority of our population. And that we have to be very much aware of that. Even among the youngsters, if there is some new interest in Buddhism, I will not put a figure on it, but it is more related to thousands than to millions. So it is interesting, it is new, but it is not a mass movement, not at all. So in some way, this spiritual gap, this spiritual deficit is much broader and deeper than you can imagine.
Herman, I can share a lot with you, but I am not sharing completely what you have said.
Not completely.
No, not completely. I think the new generation, that is my experience, even if they haven't gone to church since they have had their first communion and they are now in the 50s or 60s, but they do long for something meaningful. But what they have experienced, and this is also what Christians said, is religion really attractive? Have we not put too much the things on dogmatics? Everything what is allowed and what is not allowed. So they say, this is not what I'm believing in. But in me, I do have the longing for more meaningful conversation, the meaning in life. What is it? And they have very silently lots of questions. That is my own experience dealing with exactly those one you have mentioned. So for me, I have to say, it gives me hope when I meet exactly these people, and I do meet them, that they are full with these kind of questions, but not the institutional one, not the dogmatic one, not the laws one, etc. So that is a bit what I want. Do you want to?
I wanted to add something, especially because it seems like I was syncretist bashing. And actually I oppose syncretism, but I don't oppose the encounter. Meaning that what I mean is that you cannot mix and match everything to build new custom religions.
Yes.
It does not mean that I cannot go to some other people's temple or whatever we have to call it and accompany them. I mean, I did once go to a mosque and prayed in a mosque in the Muslim way, post-turning. That is very odd. The first time you do that, you have suddenly such a different relationship with what you believe to be above. And I think that is a very positive experience. Doesn't mean that it has to become my everyday experience. But so the syncretism is when you begin to mix things, not when you begin to experience or share with the other, up to the point of tasting, not testing, tasting his or her own way to do things. But it doesn't mean that you have to mix up everything. Like in our community, being a liberal community, we have a lot of mixed faith couple and families, but I make clear to them that if they raise children, they should give them one identity. Doesn't mean that they should hide the other identity of the other parents or the practice of the other parents, but the kids cannot be both A and B, Jewish and something else, but they can be exposed to the other, and actually that will enrich them. So, and that's a real dialogue.
Yes. Thank you so much. Christian is already looking at me. So
Not at all.
I would like to thank the audience, but first of all the speakers for your very interesting and insights you have given us. And I think we are going home with some new ideas, with some wider meaning concerning the different backgrounds of religion, and to reflect out of that about our own religion. And so that is the attractiveness. So I thank you very much for this very interesting evening, and I know Christian has something still to announce.
Well, I also would like to thank you all, but there is someone who can do it much better than myself, Rosemarijn van Weinsbergen, the director of inTOUCH Association, with whom we lead together the Hope Network and organize all these activities.
So thanks again, all of you, speakers and moderator Aldegonde, and all of you. We have something for all of you, because at the end, when you go down, there is lots of nice things to stay still a little bit here, to taste the encounter, but also to taste some nice food and drinks. But we have something special for you also to thank you. I'm going to invite Christian to do that.
Starting with the moderator.
Thank you very much, Aldegonde. On this special day, maybe first then Taufik. Thank you very much, Herman van Rompuy.
These are our traditional coffee cups, mugs, with the bookmark, with the spiritual advice. Don't tell God you have a big problem. Tell your problem you have a big God. And I'm interested how often Carlos, you will interpret this event.
When you leave the chapel to go down, you will see two baskets today. There is one basket for some little or big donation. If you want to support the activities of Hope and the other activities of the chapel, you can leave something behind. You can also do that, of course, in another way, but this evening in some cash, if you like. And there is another basket, because on your chair you found a little piece of paper. This is because we would like to invite you and even to ask you to write down ideas for further developing this evening's theme, what we discussed, or if you have any other further ideas for activities. So please take a minute of time before you go, and there is a basket you can put your ideas. And then there are also even some pens if you don't have one. I have some last announcements. We have been talking about many things, but it was finally connected to how we live in our society, how we build our society, our polis, in the Greek polis. And as you heard in the beginning, Carlo wrote a book, L'intégrité en politique, une utopie. There are books downstairs for those who are interested to buy it. So it's 23 euros and a half, and the first 10 people can have one this evening. So, okay, thanks again, and enjoy the rest of the evening.